The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes. What is your favorite adventure? Greetings, dear listeners. As many of you know, I'm a member of my local Sherlock Holmes Society, the Regina Irregulars. We meet every month to discuss one of the 60 Sherlock Holmes stories written by his creator, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, and for the last 12 months, we have discussed the 12 stories which make up the first collection, The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes. At our November meeting, we were asked to name our favorite story in this first Sherlock Holmes collection. The 12 stories are A Scandal in Bohemia, The Red-Headed League, A Case of Identity, The Boscombe Valley Mystery, The 5 Orange Pips, The Man with the Twisted Lip, The Blue Carbuncle, The Speckled Band, The Engineer's Thumb, The Noble Bachelor, The Beryl Coronet, and last but not least, The Copper Beeches. The stories were originally published in the Strand Magazine between July 1891 and June 1892 and were collected and published in book form on October the 14th, 1892. As noted in the Wikipedia article about the collection, the stories appear in the order in which they were published in the Strand Magazine and are all narrated by the character of Dr. John Watson. The 12 stories in this collection are among the most famous and possibly the most popular of the Holmes stories, and I would be interested in knowing how many times each story had appeared in other collections of Holmes or mystery stories, and thus, which ones were the most frequently collected. Sitting in front of me as I write is a small volume, the Oxford Children's Classic Edition of A Study in Scarlet and Other Sherlock Holmes Adventures. There are 5 other Sherlock Holmes adventures. So, which ones did they collect? Well, 3 from The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes, The Red-Headed League, The Blue Carbuncle, and The Speckled Band, plus 2 later stories, The Musgrave Ritual, and finally, The Dancing Men. Again, I truly wish I could answer the question, which Sherlock Holmes stories are most frequently collected? Alas, I have no way of finding an answer to that question, but I can share with you which of the stories I liked best. Here's my ranking of the 12 stories. My number 1, The Speckled Band. Then, at number 2, The Blue Carbuncle, followed by The Red-Headed League, The Engineer's Thumb, The Copper Beeches, A Scandal in Bohemia, The 5 Orange Pips, A Case of Identity, The Man with the Twisted Lip, The Boscombe Valley Mystery, The Noble Bachelor, and finally, in last place, The Beryl Coronet. I liked The Speckled Band for its gothic elements, its incredibly evil villain, Dr. Grimesby Roylott, and its unique murder weapon. And I liked The Blue Carbuncle for its vivid characterizations, and because it's a Christmas story ending with an act of clemency, if not forgiveness. As for the Beryl Coronet, I was less keen about the story, as I felt very sorry for the client, the banker, and I felt he was treated very harshly by Holmes. Now, one of my favorite YouTube channels is Greg Wagland's Sherlock Holmes Stories Magpie Audio. That's Sherlock Holmes Stories Magpie Audio. Greg has recorded all 4 of the Holmes novels and almost all of the Holmes stories, including the 12 that make up the Adventures of Sherlock Holmes. As a result, I was curious to see if the total number of views that each of the stories received might suggest which of them were the most popular stories and perhaps the most frequently collected. Well, the adventure story with the greatest number of views on Magpie Audio was A Scandal in Bohemia, the very first of the adventures, with some 407,000 views. Perhaps not a big surprise, but I was surprised at the second place finisher. The second place finisher, The Boscombe Valley Mystery, had 378,000 views, and the third, A Case of Identity, had 370,000 views. Here, in descending order, are the rest of the stories and the number of views they attained. The Speckled Band, 368,000 views. The Red-Headed League, 345,000. The Copper Beeches, 318,000. The Man with the Twisted Lip, 305,000. The Beryl Coronet, 297,000. The Noble Bachelor, 285,000. The 5 Orange Pips, 274,000. The Blue Carbuncle, 241,000. And last but not least, The Engineer's Thumb, 226,000. Were you as surprised as I was, dear listeners, on the top 3 stories in terms of views and where the other stories placed? At our November meeting, the Regina Irregulars named the following as their favorite stories from the Adventures of Sherlock Holmes. They were The Man with the Twisted Lip, A Scandal in Bohemia, The Speckled Band, while several members selected The 5 Orange Pips as their favorite story. Our facilitator, Professor Niels Clausen, author of Arthur Conan Doyle's Art of Fiction, a Reevaluation, had 2 favorites. From an artistic perspective, he likes The 5 Orange Pips due to the ambiguity surrounding the crime and surrounding Holmes's behavior. And from a personal perspective, he likes A Scandal in Bohemia, as Professor Clausen is impressed at the artistic risk Conan Doyle took in having his infallible detective defeated by a woman's wiles. Professor Clausen also suggested that the story from the Adventures of Sherlock Holmes, most often discussed in academic literature, may well be The Man with the Twisted Lip. But what do you say, dear listeners? What is your favorite story from the Adventures of Sherlock Holmes? Please tell us in the comments below, and feel free to share your ranking of the 12 stories with us as well. If this is your first visit to my channel, please consider subscribing. Please help me to reach my goal of 2,500 subs in 2022. Till midnight. Cheers! The picture used in today's video of Basil Rathbone as Sherlock Holmes and Nigel Bruce as Dr. Watson is courtesy of Pix Here. That's PX Here. While the music is that hypnotic earworm, Sneaky Snitch, by that patron of the internet, Kevin MacLeod.